that we said were important, and a few of the ones that you did say were important, it does work. Laser works over there, in case you were wondering. Right there.
Hey.
Honest, ethical, honorable, integrity. So, what is, what's ethics? Let me just tell me that. Well, you guys must have had an amazing one. You realize when we finish this conversation, we go home, right? Like, you don't say anything, we can stay here all afternoon. My wife and kids are a long ways away, so it doesn't matter to me.
Doing the right thing always, all the time.
Okay?
That's what I had in mind. It's a matter of doing what's right.
It's like having a moral behavior.
See that?
Moral behavior.
Okay. So, we're going to go through and talk about how ethical leadership is affected by the core values, discipline, and self-control, and we're going to talk a little bit about public trust. So, how do the Air Force core values affect, let's say, your idea of ethical leadership?
Ethical leader, core values.
And core values is impacted by showing me, helping me establish the difference between, you know, what's right, what I feel like doing, and what I should be doing, my duty to, like, to the Air Force and the people that work under me and that I work for, and ensuring that I know the difference between the two.
All right. Is there?
Well, I think if you're upholding the core values, you're obviously going to be ethical. I mean, if you're doing what you're supposed to and you're following those core values, you shouldn't have any question about whether what you're doing is ethical or not.
The smile on your face says you got something to say. Or you really just, lunch was that good?
Ethics, I'm not.
Not big on ethics? Not that important? What's
No, I don't know. I'm not very good at the ethics part.
What do you mean?
I really don't know what. When I hear ethics, I always think like race and gender and doing the right thing.
Yeah, that's really different.
And I don't know. I don't really know what
Well,
the ethical part is.
So let's define ethics, I guess, in that framework. So ethics would be a set of moral standards widely accepted by a society, culture, whatever you want to call it. So when we talk about ethical behavior, is it ethical for a doctor to go home and tell his wife about one of her friends that came to see him about a medical issue that she had and just let it fly? Just disrupt the Yeah. It's a HIPAA violation, so there's a legal issue with that, but is it ethical? No. Now, you start to get into real questionable areas when you talk about ethical things in the Air Force. We talked about, okay, do you tell someone why they weren't hired? Well, yeah, you can say, look, these are the things you need to work on. But you can't come to somebody and say, well, this person, I don't know, I'm trying to think of a good example that's not just ridiculous. You can't come to somebody and say, well, we chose this person because they have better people skills than you. You know what I mean? You can say, one of the things I think you could work on is your people skills, but there's ethical ramifications of sharing that information that's privileged with someone. You want to mentor them, but at the same time, you don't want to share privileged information. So when we're talking about ethics here, we're talking about making good decisions based on the morality we have as an Air Force, as an enlisted force. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Does that give you any clarification?
Yeah.
Okay. Does anybody else have any questions on that? So, my thumbprint took a long time. I don't know if I got chocolate on it or what. But so, we talked earlier about how the Air Force isn't here just to give you a job. The Air Force isn't an employment society, right? I'm going to read a quote. Being an airman is more than a job. When we voluntarily raised our right hands and took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States, we became members of the profession of arms. Underpinning that profession is the sacred trust given to us by the American people to meet their expectations. We must build our lives and shape our service on the foundations of our core values. Integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. So throughout history, we've had examples of soldiers, sailors, airmen who show exemplary courage, and they show selfless sacrifice, and the willingness to do the right thing in the face of any sort of issues. So we have to understand again that we're here to fight wars, and we want to do it in a way that is fair, that follows the treaties and laws that we've agreed to as a country, but also is effective in that. Our standards of conduct define how we act. There was a really recent example, actually, where there was a Navy lieutenant. I don't know how much you guys follow the news. There were some questions about the code of conduct. Anybody remember that? The Iranian guy, or the guys that floated into the Iranian waters. He was on TV, and what happened? You guys don't watch any news? Nothing.
Not that particular one, I guess.
What happened?
They captured them right there. There's like 9 of them. They held them. They had
These are
them.
your brothers and sisters in arms. They were POWs.
I mean, I
He
didn't
apologized.
see the whole story. I don't know.
What did he do?
He apologized. He said he was sorry. I don't know why, but
Is that a problem?
well, I don't know the whole background
It
of
is
the
in
story,
my
so
eyes.
I'm not really sure.
Go ahead. Say-
Well, there's a lot wrong with that, and a lot wrong going, but it's such a political view now. Nobody wants to get into it because feelings are hurt and everything else. She was just talking about the Constitution. Well, I'm in the NRA, so I don't believe, because of the DICT Act of 1902, which establishes the rights of who should carry guns and who shouldn't carry guns, shouldn't be infringed on. So that's my view on that. And I don't think that's ethically right, that you should be able to change that. I don't think you should apologize to anybody that you accidentally floated. Hey, I grew up to defend here. I'm big in defending it. I wear this uniform because I wanted to fight for it, you know. Hey, if I drift in your waters, you capture me, I'm not apologizing. I'm not telling you who I am. I'm not doing anything. You know, that's act war to me.
I don't know, I think what's fair for the news, fair for the game. We can't just roll up and some of the property, that's their waters. Right, I'm saying if someone rolls up in our property, we arrest them. We do it on
Do we?
their property.
There's an intent issue.
Yeah, that's what you said, but if an Iranian dude is like, I'd be floating up freaking the coast of them, East Coast, you know what I'm saying? He's just driving by in a damn military boat. We're just gonna be, how you doing? We're gonna arrest him. You know what I'm saying? The Coast Guard would be on.
Does everybody agree?
They're gonna pull him in Haven.
Yeah, I said arrest him.
The Coast Guard would arrest a military ship that's on our coast.
We could spend a lot of time talking about this, but the point is we want to talk about perceptions. So this Navy lieutenant, we don't know what happened to him when he was over there, right? We have no idea what kind of situation he was in. All we know is we saw him on TV saying, hey, it's our fault, it's our mistake, we're sorry, we shouldn't have been here, we shouldn't have done that. There's a couple issues with that. First, there's a code of conduct that tells us what we can and cannot say when we're captured, right? It's very specific. And second, what does the world see when they see that? They see
Weakness.
Destroys our credibility.
But are we any more or less weak because of this one Navy lieutenant?
It's one person, but its perception is your reality.
Absolutely.
It's a sample of what's out there.
So we have to examine ourselves under this kind of lens. We have to think about not just our standards, our ethics, our morals, what we view as the ideal, but the perception that other people have of us. And for some people that can be really difficult. If you're just, I don't care what anybody thinks, I'm going to do my thing, that's great for you, but you're wearing a uniform. So that means other people's perception of you is important. We work long hours, we have high ops tempos. For some people, things have started to slow down. For other people, things are picking up. You know, deployments are increasing, the length of time has increased, and for other people, they're not seeing those deployments as often. The point is we get into some stressful situations and we have a lot of pressure put on us. Are people seeing the way we handle that in the appropriate way? Is the perception that we're giving the people the perception that we want them to have of the United States military? As professionals, we can't let our appetite for recognition, for promotion, for stature, status, get in the way of the perception that we need the American people and the American taxpayers to see of us. So, what's going to happen if we don't set a positive example? Nothing. It's cool. I know it's after lunch, guys. Come on.
Really trust the people.
But what does that matter? Say it loud. Nothing? I must be hearing things.
if you lose the trust of the people, you get a situation much like Vietnam was, where the people literally turned on the government. You had them marching in the streets, and they turned on their soldiers as well. There was people that literally had no respect. They attacked soldiers in the streets because the people had no trust in us or our government, and it was bad.
Okay, now let's look at it. Look at it through the lens of your airmen. What's going to happen if we can't behave, act, manage, and lead in an ethical fashion and follow a moral compass and the doctrines that the Air Force has set out for us? What does that do to our airmen?
You're gonna follow in their footsteps?
Say it loud.
It'll continue to get worse.
How do you mean?
Because, I mean, if you can, it starts off slow. It's not always like I'm just going to blatantly disregard all of this. But, I mean, it's just like people, if you're just like cutting corners, if I'm going to cut this corner and people see that, next thing you know, they're going to want to cut this corner too, and it's going to just kind of keep rolling downhill.
Anybody else?
So is this where Trump comes into play?
We're not gonna talk about politics in here. I have hours tonight. If you want to stick around, I can talk to you all night, but we're not gonna talk about it in here. As you live your everyday life, as you spend your UTAs and you plan them out, I want you to think about how is the discipline and self-control that you're portraying to people being interpreted by your airmen? Whether they work directly for you, they're part of your squadron, part of your wing, part of the same base, or even civilians. Are you displaying the discipline and self-control that the military tries to instill in us? So we're entrusted with the security of our nations. Tools of the trade we have, they're lethal. We engage in wars, and it can affect people's lives, literally, whether they live or die. It's a serious trust that we have. And it's important for us to have the trust of the public. So I want to talk about a poll that was done. We do. I just have one sitting there. While you guys are staring at this and I'm talking, we're going to pass out, I almost forgot, we're going to pass out a student guide. So like we said, this is a beta test. We're kind of evaluating how this is going to work. So we're giving out a student guide. The one thing I would ask is, I'm still here. If I just wanted you to read that, I just would have sent it to you. So we're in class. Let's engage in discussion. Refer to it. That's not all the answers. If you have anything to say, it's not in that, share it. It's okay. If you guys want to catch up, we're at 1.4. You're welcome to open up and look at that.
I could tell you what page number that is.
14?
I'm sorry. Did you already find it?
Oh, no.
15 to 14.
Is that the same?
Oh, no, I'm sorry. No.
14.
I think we're on page 14. If you can turn to 14. No, all right, let's continue. So there was a Gallup poll done, and what they're showing is the difference between what took place in, what was it, 2005? I can't even read it here.
24th from June 5th.
It's a lot bigger there than it is here.
June 5th through 8th,
There you go.
2014.
So this is the, that's the change, that's what it is. This is where it is now. So what they did is they went around and they asked a bunch of people, hey, how much trust, well, why don't you read the questions exactly what they asked? It says it on there, doesn't it? Oh, it's right here. I'm going to read you a list of institutions in American society. Please tell me how much confidence you yourself have in each one. A great deal, quite a lot, some, or very little. So they're kind of filling out a vote sheet, whatever, answering the questions. So they went through and asked this. Now this is reordered. This isn't the order they asked them in. This is ordered from most trust to least trust. But when you look at this, the military is number one with 72% have trust. I'm just going to add these two up. Okay, 42 and the 30. Small businesses follow that, then the police, church and organized religions after that, medical systems, the presidency after that, U.S. Supreme Court, you've only got 32% that trust the U.S. Supreme Court. Public schools, banks, organized labor is only 24%. Newspapers, the criminal justice system, television news, big business, and Congress. There's not even actually a number there. So I'm assuming that that's not very much.
Is Congress zero? There's no number.
That's what we're assuming, I guess. But the idea is that people's perception of the military is very important. And Well, I mean, let's just throw it out there. Sergeant Vanderveer, can you individually affect that in any way?
I suppose I can if I go out and do something and get in the news or do something bad, I mean, and they know I'm in the military, then yeah, I can put a bad perception on the U.S. military.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Now, what about this airman reservist, if I remember right, on vacation in France, right? Dude comes on the train with a machine gun. I mean, how much positive press is that? How does that affect people's perception? These guys won foreign awards. They were given medals by the French government for what they did. It was a National Guardsman, a reservist, and one of their buddies, I think. And I mean, that was national news. And they were just doing what they thought was right. But they behaved in a moral, admirable way, and it reflected positively on the military. In the same way, if we act in a way that doesn't reflect those morals and those ethics, then it reflects negatively on us.
It's kind of similar if you go to like a restaurant, you know, and you get crappy service, right? And then you come back and I'm never going back to that restaurant again, you know. And then some of your buddies might be like, well, I ate the restaurant, it was great, you know, but you're still never going to go there again because that changed your perception of it, you know. So whether it's good or bad, to you it's bad because you had a bad experience, you know. And so as a military person, you want to try to project as much good as you can, you know, so that people don't look good at us. What if, say, you like grow up in a town where the military is always causing trouble, they're looking ragged, you might have a bad perception of the military just from what your experience has. You know, like we talked about earlier, your perception of something is your reality.
So now, do those expectations of our behavior, I mean, once the UTA is over, we take the uniform off, we're done, right?
Doesn't change the fact that you're in the military, though.
It doesn't? I mean, you're not in status, technically.
Doesn't matter.
Matter.
Your friends, family know. They're going to talk to people. They're going to tell, hey, my son is in the military. They're going to tell the people they work with, and those people are going to look at you. And if you present yourself in a fashion unprofessional, they're going to think, well, wow, is that how the military acts?
If you screw up, that's reflected in the news that you were reserved.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And so I want you to really, really think about that. Those expectations never stop. They never shut off. And they shouldn't, because our behavior shouldn't change. Our moral compass, our ethics are the same, whether we're working or whether we're not working. So this is an example of where the military was in 2005 through has been, or through where they are now, excuse me. So they've done the same poll year after year. They just keep doing it, and you watch it change. Can you guys see these numbers very well?
Yeah.
You're the closest one in your school. If you can't see them here, then look at your book. Well, you can't see them in your book. They're not there.
If I stare at it long enough, it looks like a cigarette.
2005, you start at 74%. It goes to 73, 69, 71, 82, 76, 78, 75, 76, 74, 72. So there was a slight dip, and then a big bump, and then it went way down after that. And so it is declining right now. Every year it's declining just a little bit. For the last 3 years in a row. Why is that? Could be. Could be. Let's talk about that. So, you think it's the force reduction that gives people a negative perception or a lack of trust? Or do you think it's the way that military members react to that?
Well, it's hardships in general. Whenever the group goes down and people start really looking at how people really are, I mean, that's when you start to really evaluate, for instance, if people don't perform as well when they don't have the resources, or, you know, people start having negative attitudes and morale goes down, things like that, so they start thinking, well, I don't have any trust anymore because no one's paying me or no one's doing this, that, and the other.
Okay, what are the reasons might trust be declining?
I think it's fatigue.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
If you go back about 4 years down that list, back to 2001, you would see the approval rating for the military skyrocket. We just started a war. I mean, we've been going at it for over a decade. And granted, it's small in comparison. It's not nearly as much in the public's eye as, say, Desert Storm was, and it's all over the place. But the people and the military people as well are getting tired of being at war. I mean, we've been in different countries for over a decade now, and I mean, it's starting to show in us and in the public eye.
Put those two together,
what she was talking about, there's a reduction of forces, and we're still going some like other places overseas. So you're going to multiple deployments, so you're gonna have a more sour attitude, in my opinion.
Like, I think if you look at, like, first those, the Taliban and Al Qaeda, and then, Hamas and ISIS, there's all these different groups. I mean, have people, in the public don't even know where we're at, we're at war with, you're like, hear all these different names, they're really not informed with a lot what's going on. All they know is we change enemies, changing locations, and they have no clue what's going on. We don't really have a set of determined goals, what are we trying to accomplish here, and so the public just kind of like, I just want to get out of here,
I think we get a lot of bad press. I mean, how many military members have died this year from people attacking them, suicide, whatever? I mean, right here in America.
Sexual
So,
assault,
that-
right? It's been a huge thing over the last few years.
Yeah, I mean,
What else?
The whole false honor. There's been a lot of people that tend to go out in our uniform that either are not military anymore or they're not military at all. So they're going out with an image that's supposed to be us, but they're not portraying what a military member is at all.
I just would hope that a guy with a mullet in Walmart could be identified as not being in the military, no matter what he got on.
I mean, I grew up in a small veteran town, and there's, I mean, all you see is like rednecks come down. They have Vietnam hats, stuff like that. Some of them are legitimate, some of them are not. You come across them, but they have no problem telling stories.
The favorite one is the Army Ranger, somebody always trying to be special forces or whatever. And
That video was all
But that
over
does
YouTube
present
for a
a bad
while.
image. It does, because a lot of civilians, they won't know the difference.
But
You
they
got
can
some
roll
sort of a
up
clean
on-
haircut, and you got a uniform on that kind of looks like a military member. They're gonna spot you.
So we've talked about a number of different reasons why it could possibly be declining. The thing I want you guys to focus on are the things that we can control as a force, all right? Yeah, I mean, we can catch things like that, you can call it out. When you do so, you do it in an honorable, ethical, calm fashion. You don't go up and punch somebody in the face, so that's what they can see on YouTube. Now, the public's perception of our presence overseas, I mean, can we affect that as a military force? We can keep a positive attitude. You can complain, just like you were talking about A1C Bates and Sergeant Alvarez, right? The A1C doesn't need to hear what the tech sergeants are talking about. People that aren't in the military don't need to hear the complaints that you have. You know what I mean? We're going to try and portray that positive perception of the military. So we're talking about ethics and ethical leadership. Is there, we have these core values. Is there any chance that the core values are ever going to conflict with getting the mission done? How so?
I said sorry.
Oh,
Well, sorry.
you said yes.
And, excuse me, I did special ops for a number of years, and there are some situations you can get into that don't seem, there's not really a clear answer, you just have to get into it.
I read about some folks in Afghanistan. There's certain groups there that molest little children and stuff like that, and that some of our troops have gotten in trouble for beating people up. Whatever that was, I had a slave sex child and stuff, and it's not. So if they're going against their own ethics and just not to let it go, they were told by the security to turn a blind eye to it and stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty hard to do. I mean, you're trying to go against your own ethics and your own morals.
So we're going to pass out a case study that kind of assists in a little bit lighter fashion than that. But we're going to break into your groups. And we're actually, you know what, let's just separate completely while we do this. We've got a few minutes. After we pass this out, we'll go through it real fast. Actually, we won't even go through it real fast. We'll just break into groups. When you guys come back, we're going to have each team report back to the class what they would do in this situation. All right? Not everybody's going to have to talk in this specific presentation, but keep in mind we want to hear from all of you, so it's not going to be the same person talking every time. You're going to stand up here in front of the class. We'll give you each piece of chart paper. You can write down exactly what you're going to do, how you would handle the situation, right? There's a lot of things involved with it. So 15 minutes. Yeah, she got some.
We got the stuff that'll stick.
Let me grab these case studies.
Did I miss anything? I just wanted. It's a matter of.
Did I take them out?
No, I didn't see anything. I made sure that there was a black one for every group if they wanted it, another color if you wanted, whatever colors you want.
a minute, is it in your book?
I don't think it's in there.
No, it's not. I
No,
might be
because it
missing
goes straight to
some,
the next section after that.
I might be missing some case studies.
Again?
I might be missing some
Yes,
case
it
studies.
does. This one has
Which
a
one?
sticky.
Where are
It's
we?
a matter
I
of.
was gonna fold it in half, but I don't know if we're gonna do it. Or no. I think it's too late.
Well, I think it's a late job.
Actually, gotten really busy.
Yeah? I remember you were talking about your own finding work for a while.
How long it's gonna last, I don't know.
Might be people doing renovations, and this is what you do, right? You do like contracting work, you want up for renovations?
I've got one. You've got one.
Like I could have sworn, like I remember
Let's,
you having
does somebody
that.
else have one?
For the last 2 years.
We have one
I try not to embarrass everyone.
I told her this morning.
These guys are technical. Who's got a smartphone?
Up and on time. She was like,
Come people take a picture of that. Are you gonna be able to read it if you take a picture of it? Okay. We're gonna read it, but we're still on the break into groups. So, where's the other copy you have?
It's in the yellow. Or orange, yellow or orange.
All right, he has to give me a picture.
You got the copy, you got the copy, you got the copy.
You got one more copy here? All right. We'll have a copy for you.
We're taking pictures of it?
Now you know what? Let's read through it real fast. Who would love to read for me?
Sure, I'll read
Okay,
the whole thing.
nice and loud.
Case study, it's a matter of principle. You were assigned to the Security Forces Squadron and you were the supervisor of Staff Sergeant Gallagher, who is currently in pre-deployment training. Shortly before the end of the UTA, your supervisor, Senior Master Sergeant Moorhead, asks to see you and tells you you need to sign Gallagher off on her weapons qualification. She must be signed off before she leaves for this deployment. You explained to Senior Master Sergeant Moorhead that Sergeant Gallagher cannot be signed off on her weapons qualification because she does not have a current Lautenberg amendment that certifies she has not been convicted in any court of a misdemeanor crime of domestic violence. You explained that you have asked Sergeant Gallagher to bring this document for the last three UTAs, and each time she avoids doing so. Sergeant Moorhead vouches for Sergeant Gallagher and tells you to sign her off anyway, saying, come on, she's a female and a cop. This is a non-issue and the mission has to come first. We need every person on this deployment and we can't let redundant paperwork affect the mission. You follow. Sir, I just don't feel comfortable signing her off. Well, you must plan on deploying in 3 days then. Moorhead replies. It has only been 6 months since your last deployment and you have deployed 3 times in the last 2 years. Your relationship with your spouse is rocky right now and you don't think your marriage will survive another deployment this soon. What are some of the issues identified? What are the risks to the mission? And what are some of the solutions to the problem identified?
All right, we're not going to discuss it quite yet. I want you guys to go ahead and break into your groups. There's 3 classrooms here on the other side, so one group can stay here. If you guys want to stay here.